Join Janet Tonkins as she shares her inspirational journey from low self-esteem to confidence, resilience, and wealth creation. In this powerful episode, Janet emphasizes seeking God first, serving the community, and leaving a legacy of determination and giving back. Persistence and discipline are the keys to transforming your life, says Janet. Gain valuable insights into real estate investment, financial, education, and the power of persistence and discipline. Janet's story is a testament to overcoming challenges and shaping one's destiny. Tune in to be inspired and learn how to transform your life and create a lasting impact. Don't miss this transformative episode. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your family and friends. Follow us on social media for updates and join the conversation using Janet Tonkins' journey. Let's inspire others to achieve greatness and give back to our communities.
Hey, you awesome folks! Thanks for taking this journey of discovery with your guide, Keith Haney. You're listening to the Becoming Bridge Builders podcast, your favorite podcast for everything from racial reconciliation to education innovation, justice reform, and leading change in the 21st century. This podcast is for people who love to be challenged with difficult topics, but want practical solutions to solve these challenging issues. Becoming Bridge Builders makes change possible. Each week on the podcast, Keith invites innovative thought leaders to share how they are building bridges in their area of expertise. You will hear breakthrough ideas and concepts that are changing the world. He's featuring guests who are best-selling authors, leaders at Microsoft, entrepreneurs, leading educators, professors, lawyers, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can be the bridge to the change you are seeking.
My guest today is Janet Tonkins, known as a cash flow diva because she buys houses like women buy shoes, is a renowned real estate developer, investor, coach, and philanthropist. Rising from poverty, she built a stellar reputation for excellence and integrity in real estate rentals, emphasizing her mantra, "I don't give anyone anything I can't live in myself." With over 37 years of experience and a portfolio of over 100 properties, she's particularly proud of her 74-unit apartment building in Paterson, New Jersey, dedicated to grandparents raising their grandchildren. Passionate about sharing her expertise, she mentors women and children in building their own real estate empires. Featured in NPR, WOLB 1010, and Realty Track, and many podcasts, her best-selling book, The Projects, From Adversity to Success. She aims to impact the lives of 1 million women and children and giving back $1 million. We welcome Janet to the podcast. Well, Janet, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm truly blessed, and I'm doing excellent, and it's a pleasure to be here, Keith.
Well, it's good to have you on. I'm excited to talk to you about this conversation. I always had a passion for this, never dove into it in my life, but when I was younger, I studied it and was like, I want to do real estate. And then my life took a different path, but it's always been in the back of my mind, so I'm excited to talk to you about this.
Okay, and I'm excited to be talking to you about it as well.
I love to ask my guests this question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Okay, from Grandma. It was, first of all, it was seek God first, His kingdom, and everything else will be added unto you. And then do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's how I strive to live my life.
Oh, we called it a good old golden rule, my grandmother told me when I was growing up.
Absolutely. That is the golden rule. And Grandma had her own holiness church. So, of course, those were the things that she instilled in each of us.
That's so neat. You know, I always think about people like yourself who God has blessed with a level of success. But on our journey, we always run across people who serve to be role models for us, to inspire us. Who are some of those people in your life, in your journey, that you want to kind of give a shout out to and tell us about what they meant to you in your journey?
Absolutely. First of all, my first grade teacher, Miss Caldwell, from Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary School in Jacksonville, Florida. She always pushed us, and I grew up in segregation, of course. Once upon a time when we were colored, and of course, they were members of the neighborhood as well. So they really had a keen interest in seeing that we exceed and do well. And so she pushed me, and I could read. I was actually tutoring at the age of 5 years old, and so they told my parents that they saw something special in me, and so they pushed me. Then it was my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Rawls from Rufus E. Payne Elementary School, who helped me to win the spelling bee for the city. And I mean, they pushed us. As a matter of fact, they almost cheated a little bit because they gave me some of the words, but they wanted me to succeed so badly. And then Grandma, good old Grandma, Pensacola, Florida. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida originally. We moved to New Jersey when I was 12 years old. But every summer, regardless, as soon as school was out, my grandmother, we were at Grandma's house. And I always tell people, that I'm the oldest of 6, and I tell her that my husband and I were the first to have our homes, but that's not true because Grandma had her own home. She had her own store with the knee-high sodas and the Coca-Colas at 7 cents, and they had their own church, so they had a nice piece of property. So that's where I have to attribute a lot of my entrepreneurialism to as well. But loved Grandma. That was my paternal grandmother. We weren't as close to my maternal, but my father's mom, who was an only child. She instilled so many things. And the first thing that she instilled was the ability to become a Christian as well, because they had their own church.
Oh, that's so neat. And it's so nice to be able to kind of know that those people serve to inspire you, push you to achieve things you may not have thought you could achieve on your own. But I remember those kind of people. My second teacher always stands out to me as one of those people who did that for me. And I got a chance to meet her later on in life and tell her just how impactful she was in my life. So those are neat to kind of give thanks to God for those people.
Oh, absolutely. And that was truly awesome. I was unable to do that for my teachers, but we always, I always give God thank you. And you know what, when I look back, I really wouldn't have grown up any other way. I truly enjoyed my childhood in the Florida area.
There you go. I love that. I grew up in Louisiana myself, so I kind of know that Southern upbringing. So, yep. So I'm always curious about people like yourself, too, because as we think about your personal journey, oftentimes it gives us insight into the decisions you've made and how you got where you are, because those personal stories tell us some of the things you overcame to get where you are, but also the inspiring story of how you are where you are today.
Okay, so as I just said, I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm the oldest of 6. My parents moved to Paterson, New Jersey when I was 12 years old. As a matter of fact, and of course, as you know, that was the migration to the north at that time for a better living. But when I moved to New Jersey, even though I told you about my teachers and how they pushed me in southern area, it was not to be the same. So we grew up, we moved to the Christopher Columbus Projects in Paterson, New Jersey, Building 4, Apartment 15C, where, of course, drug abuse and violence were the norm. The elevators were often broken. I can't tell you how many times that we had to bring groceries and laundry up 15 flights of stairs. And so often the elevators were broken. I almost got raped at one of those times. And then there was low-aim, and in Paterson today, there is still low-aim or no-aim for children that look like you and I. And even though I graduated number 57 out of 500 in John F. Kennedy High School, I actually wanted to be a physical therapist. But the white guidance counselor said no, that was not possible for me. So the only thing that we were steered to become is either nurses are school teachers, and which is something that I really wanted to do, is to become a teacher at that time. But that was not to be done either. I've always worked. I started at Gino Giant at the age of 13, and I would walk 3 miles because number one, I always, for some reason, I loved dressing and I loved clothes. I grew up with parents who lived from paycheck to paycheck, never owned anything. I remember, and I worked and I saved up enough money to buy my first car at the age of 17 years old. However, I still needed a co-signer. Lo and behold, I go to mom and dad, and I guess you know what happened. They could not co-sign because they didn't have good credit. Okay? So, that fueled my determination to say, look, this is not something that's going to happen to me. There has to be a better way. So that fueled, I always had a love for reading. So that fueled my reading from Money Magazine, Forbes, Inc., Kiplinger. And I wanted to know how other folks that didn't look like me, how are they able to make it in life? And so upon my reading, I discovered that 90% of the wealth, or 90% of the millionaires throughout the world, not just the United States, owned their wealth or became millionaires as a result of owning real estate or owning assets. And I say to my students that even your McDonald's, your Burger Kings, even though they have the burgers and so forth, the real money lies in the assets that they own. So the way to become wealthy is to own assets. And so I say to my young women, and I have 2 daughters that will be 49 and 50. They're not married. In my church, we have medical doctors, we have gynecologists, lots of female professionals that are not married. And so I say to them, this is one way, owning assets. And even if you don't want to own assets, you still need to start learning how to invest. As a matter of fact, we taught our son at the age of 13. He had 8 vending machines, and then we taught him how to invest in stocks by something called dollar cost averaging. What you do is you buy one stock directly from the company, and then you automate that where you can buy it as much or as little as you want each and every single month. So by the time he was able to go into college, he got a partial scholarship, but he was able to pay for the balance with the money that he saved from the stock. He was on Black Enterprise Journal as a result of that, and Tony Brown's Journal in New York City as a result of him teaching that. And then he had 8 Pepsi vending machines. What Pepsi would do is they would throw their machines away, but then we built relationships with a distributor, with a friend of ours, and he said I'll give him the vending machines because we're only going to throw them away as well. So entrepreneurialism, owning assets, and then investing. In my church, we teach folks, and I have to say 75% of our parishioners are debt-free. We teach them that, okay, as I say to pastor though, okay, but once they become debt-free, you can't just save your money or sit on your money. You still have to invest that money in order for it to grow. And then compound interest makes a big difference, and and how you can live your life.
I love that. And I love how your story went from what you could have been when you moved to New Jersey, because the education told you you were limited in where you could go in life. And I wonder how many people who are like us, who look like us, believe that limitation. You can only be this, you can only be that. So talk a little bit to us about how you encourage people to get outside of that I would say a bigotry of low expectation. That you can only be a basketball player, you can only be a rapper, you could only be a nurse or this. How do you help people to see beyond what society may say, or teachers may say, or a counselor may say you can be, to see that there's so much more for you out there than that?
Okay, first of all, I mean, with us is we have to invest in ourselves. We have to be willing to read and change our own mindsets. You got to remember, I had low self-esteem, believe it or not, and sometimes I still suffer from that. But as a result of reading, as a result of believing, and trusting, and then having that faith, what the Lord said, we can do all things with and through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but according to our what? According to our own beliefs. So it takes a lot of work and digging into it, having affirmations, meditations. I can do this through I believe that I am smart, I am worthy, I deserve to succeed and live not just a good life, but a great life with and through our Lord and Savior Jesus. We can live life abundantly and things like that. So meditations, affirmations, and then continuously investing and reading upon yourself. And then, investing in yourself, educating yourself as well. What did Warren Buffett say? The best thing you can do is gain knowledge and education. And at 90-something years old, he's still reading every single day. And then we have to do that too. And then surrounding ourselves with other folks that have those values or have that. Sometimes we have to go backwards in order to go forward, to go sideways, and surround ourselves with people who are doing those things so that we have something to emulate in order for us to improve our lot in life.
So let's get into your real estate, because I'm dying to find out how you say you do it. I ran across your information. You said you should own at least between 2 to 10 properties. So tell us how you begin to break through that and see yourself doing that and accomplish that goal.
Okay. First of all, we saved up. Remember, I told you we were reading. So you got to remember, home ownership is a way, if you use it appropriately, if you use it properly, is a way to increase your net worth. Okay? So we decided then, okay, we're going to start saving 20%. And I'm truly blessed as I started Verizon. It was, at that point, it was New Jersey Bell. I started at the age of 16 years old. And I should have gone, I did not go straight to college, and when I was in love at that time. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to marry my high school sweetheart, and we got engaged. He went off to the service, came back. He married somebody else. Matter of fact, he married 3 other people. All 3 of them, plus himself, all died of AIDS.
Oh, my goodness.
So God has been with me all the way, because had I married him, I may not have even been here to talk to you this day. So I married a few years later, and I've been married 43 years now. It'll be 44 years in June to my husband and lover, best friend, and business partner as well. But we decided, okay, so we're going to buy a first property. But what I wanted was a single family property. I wasn't thinking about investing. So we met this attorney. My girlfriend had an attorney. Everything is about relationship. So she said he wants to sell his property, but his nephew wants to buy it, but he doesn't think his nephew can qualify for the mortgage. So we see the property. Absolutely loved it. He said, okay, if you like it, we'll get together next week. We don't have to do any paperwork. Next week comes, I don't hear from him. 2 weeks come, I don't hear from him. 3 weeks, he calls my girlfriend and said, look, we finally held the mortgage, which is one way that you can buy it. We held the mortgage because he knew his nephew couldn't qualify. But I have a client that has a 3-unit property on Broadway and 33rd Street. Ask her if she wants to take a look at it. I said, okay, we'll take a look at it. So there were 7 rooms on the first floor, 3 bedrooms. 7 rooms on the second floor, 3 bedrooms. 4 rooms on the third floor, 2 bedrooms. 5 finished rooms in the basement with a kitchen and an office. I want you to listen to 1987, $90,000.
Wow.
Interest rate 9%, which is why I say today, don't even worry about the interest rate. 9% interest, okay? We bought that one property And today you would call this house hacking. We bought it because we were in an urban area. We were first-time home buyers. Remember I said we saved 20% down. We only had to put 4% down, and all of our closing costs were paid. So with that one property, our mortgage was paid, and the taxes were even high. Matter of fact, when we left New Jersey to come to Baltimore in 2001, the taxes were $12,000 a year alone. But because it was a triplex, the tenants paid that. We refinanced that one property over 5 times with lower interest rates. As the interest rates lowered, took money out. When you take money out on a refinance, that's free money. You don't have to pay any taxes on that, as opposed to you flipping a house, then having to pay, once you sell it, having to pay long-term capital gains or short-term capital gains. Then we said, oh, wow, we love this. So we were able to buy that very same year 4 additional duplexes with 10% down on each of those. And then at that time, we were putting properties in our own name, as opposed to now we put them in an LLC. But we didn't know any of that. Remember, in 1987, there was no internet. There was no bigger pockets. Everything was trial and error. Or you would see the late night infomercials for 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning with Carlton Sheets. That was the only way. So we were risk takers. We delved in, we dug, we learned by trial and error. Now I'm a mentor and a coach, so I'm very transparent. I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad and the ugly is that there was a tenant in the property on the first floor. We had not done our due diligence. We were told that her rent was $500. So when we get in there, she hands me $300. I'm saying, what's this? She said, well, that's how much I paid. She said, here are all of my receipts and so forth. So she said, oh, so what we did is we lied, and we told her that my mother-in-law was going to move in to get her to move out.
Right.
Okay. She found out, and she sued us. Okay. But we settled. We settled for $5,000, and it was worth it in the long run. But what I learned from that is to do my due diligence, to get everything in writing, to actually talk to a tenant, and then going forward, I would not buy a property unless the tenants were out of them, or unless they were able to move out.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So you said there was some good and there's some ugly and bad. So tell us what those other 2 parts of the real estate thing we need to be aware of if we were going to delve into this, that we need to be aware of, especially in today's market. Because I know there's been some changes since you first started that we should probably be aware of some definite changes.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. So number 1, what you need to be aware of, you want to find out is where you're going to invest in. Is that a landlord-friendly state, or is it a tenant-friendly state? Because that makes a difference as to if you have to evict a tenant, how long it's going to take for you to do that. Then you need to determine whether or not your city or your state is rent controlled, and sometimes that goes by county by county. For example, I'm in New Jersey, I'm in Atlanta, and I'm in Baltimore City and Baltimore County, all of my properties. So I have over 100. So in New Jersey, because my properties are in an LLC, I can't represent myself in an eviction. I must hire an attorney. So you have to look at that. In Baltimore City and Baltimore County, the way that evictions are handled are totally different. In the city, it's much more stringent. I have to first give you a 10-day notice, then before I can even file for eviction. Then after the 10-day notice, I can file for eviction. If I get the judgment for you, and remember, when I'm filing, that's just to put you out. That's not to recuperate any monies from there. Then it takes me almost 60 days before I can actually put you out once I get the judgment, as opposed to the county. once I get the judgment, I can put you out the very next day. What do I do with your property? In the city, I cannot put your property on the outside. In the county, I can put the property on the outside. Also, too, you need to determine what are some of the environmental issues. For example, in Baltimore City, you are liable for lead paint lawsuits because you have older inventory. A lot of these houses have a lot of lead in it. I don't have to worry about that in New Jersey. I don't have to worry about that in Atlanta. But what I have to worry about in Atlanta is mold and trees that are falling down. So you need to know those things. Then you have to determine whether or not you're in the area that you're going to invest in. For example, Baltimore is a block by block neighborhood. So I can live on a block, which is where I live. I live across a lake, across the street from a lake and trees and everything. But if I go up 2 additional blocks, it's called the blue light district because of drug abuse and so forth. So you need to know those things. Then you need to know your fair housing laws, what you can do, what you can say to tenant. And right now, you cannot hold, you cannot even ask them. You can look to see if tenants were actually in prison or not, but you can't hold that against them anymore. You have to be careful to ask them, how many children. You can't ask them how many children they have. What you have to ask them is how many people are going to live in the property, because each property, each bedroom can only hold so many. So there's a limitation for each bedroom. So you have to know those type of things. Your fair housing laws. Then if you're going to be renovating properties, whether or not you need permits and what permits and things are needed for. So there's a lot of those things. Then if you're going to be renting rooming houses, whether or not how many rooms and how many people you can put in those. And then squatters have rights. So if a squatter takes over one of your properties, if you're leaving it vacant for that length of time, you can't just automatically put them out. You have to actually file. You have to take them to court in order to actually move them. And so what I think too, and if I was a politician, really Congress should be doing something to take that, because even if they take over the house that you live in, your primary residence, you would still have to follow the same process in taking them to court to put them out. So these are some of the good, the bad, and the and of course, if you're not managing the properties appropriately and you don't put the right tenants in there, of course they can damage your property. They can damage your property.
Well, that's a lot to know. So, if you were giving people advice to find out more about this, where would they go to find sources of this kind of information? Is there like a central located source, or do you guys have to do your homework?
Well, you have to do your due diligence in every city straight. Unfortunately, there is not one, because each state varies. Now, if you want to, in terms of fair housing laws, oh, absolutely. So it's simply easy to just Google fair housing laws, okay? Because that's a federal program. But for your states and your various cities, most of them have tenant and landlord laws on the website. So you can just Google tenant and fair laws from the city or the state that you're actually in.
So I know you wrote a best-selling book, The Turning Point. Tell us about that book.
The Turning Point chronicles my journey from low self-esteem to confidence and courage, from living in the projects to creating and building projects. And then, as we just spoke about, from building confidence and then creating wealth. So it chronicles me all the way from my 6-year-old talking about my grandmother to me marrying my husband, which is my number one turning point, to marrying him and establishing our business. And then my number 2 turning point was accepting our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then seeking Him first, and then serving. I'm a servant at heart. I'm a child of God. I'm a servant, and so I seek to to serve him first and then serve my community and serve. I'm also a Bible study teacher. I'm a mentor. I'm also a hard money lender and a private money lender as well. So what my students get comprehensive education, and that if as long as they qualify, I will actually loan them the money to buy their first properties. And so I've been able to change the trajectory. And we also hold a quarterly retreat. And every single quarter we take folks, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in real estate. Yeah, we've taken some folks that own salon owners, some restaurant owners, and what we do is we talk about entrepreneurialism, we talk about business, and of course we include the real estate, and we go somewhere out of the country every quarter.
So I ran across your website, and you have some phenomenal resources there. So if somebody wants to connect with you and learn more from you and take your class, where can they find you?
There are two websites, janettonkins.com as well as the cashflowdiva.com. And as a matter of fact, I am going to be doing a free masterclass on June 1st, a free 3-hour masterclass. So if you want to contact me at janettonkins.com, I will certainly provide you with the information for the free masterclass.
Now, I ran across what one of your life goals is, but I want to ask you this so you can tell the audience, what do you want your legacy to be?
First of all, I want my legacy to be one where I'm serving my community, that I leave a legacy of resilience, persistency, determination, giving back. And also, I'm about not only giving you a fish, but teaching you how to fish. And so, I don't know about you, but I was never taught how to set goals. And teaching our young folks, and even from 5 to 6 years old, we have a school from our church, and I've been able to teach the 5 years and 6 years old about money, how to invest, compound interest, and it doesn't take a whole lot of money. If you do $10 to $20 a month, and you start at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, within 20 years you could have $1 million if you don't touch it. As I said, dollar cost averaging, or just buy a fund. Okay, just do an ETF fund and never touch it. Then we could have, but I want us to be able to take care of our own community. And so, I don't want my living to be in vain, and I have that responsibility that, I've been blessed, and therefore I have to be a blessing to others. And so that's what I want my legacy to be.
That's great. As we wrap up, Jan, I want you to kind of summarize for our audience some key takeaways you want our people to take away from our conversation today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Number one, first of all, and we didn't talk about it, but there's always a way. Okay. And for us, we have to be persistent. We have to be determined. We have to be focused, organized, and disciplined, and never, ever, ever give up. Okay? Then if this is something that we want to get into, it's important that we always do our due diligence. Okay? And first of all, we need to determine if this is something that we truly want. Because this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You can get rich, but it's over the long term. And then when we seek to serve when we make that our first choice, remember, everything else that we do will come. Seek God first, and everything else will be added unto us. We truly will get that back. So if it's something that you want to do, and remember, if you think about it, anything that you really wanted to do, you did whatever you could to do it, and you've accomplished those goals. So the other thing is, we cannot allow our environment to determine our destinations. With and through God, we can be the architect of our own destiny.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for this inspiring conversation. I pray people look you up and learn from you, because, like you said, we can shape our destiny. And I think one of the things I've always tried to do in this podcast too, for my community and every community really, is to realize that you can pass down something to the next generation. And it's really important for us to think that way. What can I leave to my kids and my grandkids that will get them set up so they can be successful in this world as well? So besides leaving with a faith that comes that really undergirds all that we do, but setting them up to be successful, to be able to navigate through the difficult times that the world has.
Oh, absolutely. And we need to be able to take care of our own. And remember, we used to be able to do that.
Yes.
So when we look at other nationalities, they do it. Okay, they all as a family, they do it, and we used to be able to do that. So we need to actually get back to that. Get back to the family. Dig a ditch, dig a well. What does Proverbs 3 say? Okay, we need to be able to leave our children something. And so I will leave you with that.
Thank you so much, Annie. You have a blessed day, and thank you so much for what you do.
And thank you for having me, and you continue to become a bridge builder as well. So I'm truly blessed and honored that you would have me on your program.
Thank you. Do you know that most entrepreneurs hit a revenue ceiling and have no idea why? They're working harder, spending more money, running more ads, but revenue stays flat. My friend Dr. Noah St. John calls this the invisible break. He's giving our listeners a free revenue ceiling audit to help you see what's really holding you back. You'll get a free 30-day membership to NoahBot, giving you access to Dr. Noah's 30 years of experience to help you reach your next level. But hurry, because there's only 50 available this month. So if you're tired of being stuck at the same revenue level and want to finally break through, get your free revenue ceiling audit at drnoahvault.com in the affiliate link that'll be listed in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Becoming Bridge Builder. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help support the podcast, please subscribe and share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at bkeithhaney and on Getter and Twitter at RevHeadpin. Thanks again, and tune in next time.